Welcome to Plot Recon, where thrillers get tactical. I'm your host, Evan Graver. Today, I'm joined by Thom Tate, a spy thriller author whose work centers on covert operations, intelligence tradecraft, and high-stakes global conflict. He writes fast, action-driven fiction that drops readers in the middle of the shadow wars and political intrigue. Welcome to the show, Tom. All right. So, the first question I always ask is, how did you get into writing?
Due to unfortunate circumstances. I was working for a company and we were selling out the particular division that I was in, and I was let go. And so I had a lot of free time on my hands. And as I was looking for a job, I saw a YouTube video with Mac Makowitz on future weapons. And I saw this weapon called Metal Storm, and I thought, wow, that would make a really awesome, used to be the center around some type of a spy thriller. And that'd be cool if somebody wrote that. And I realized that nobody was going to, so I did it myself.
That's awesome. It's nice to see thrillers with forward-looking tech in it. I kind of enjoy seeing what other authors and what other technology is out there and trying to put it in my books too.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think it's always kind of fun to try to invent some technology too, if you need it for a particular scene that it's not so far-fetched that it's unbelievable, but real enough that it could actually happen. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. So I got to ask, on your website, tatescovertworld.com, you have a book counter and then you have a prediction counter that says one prediction has come true. So you hit my intrigue automatically, and I told you this in the email when we were going back and forth. So tell me about what this prediction and what came true about it.
I've actually got three that came true, it's sort of, so to speak. But the first one I'm talking about is in my novella called Intercept. And that's a story about Mossad Falavi, who is the Iranian nuclear guru. He comes back to Iran after being off the grid for about 7 years to start up their nuclear program again. And I figured, okay, someone's going to want to take him out. Who would that be? Obviously, probably not. And I wrote this in 2012, 2013, maybe 2014. So it's been a while. Anyway, in 2020, the real Iranian Fakhrizadeh was assassinated by Mossad. And so 6 years after I wrote about it.
Always interesting how I think writers have a crystal ball. So we look into it to see what the next trouble area is going to be around the world, and then we try to write to that particular problem. So you said you had two other predictions that came true. What were those?
Yeah, so in my latest book, Beyond All Measure, there is a scene on the back of a yacht where there is a very wealthy Saudi prince, and he is handing a glass of champagne to this young lady. And it's a very unique looking bottle. It's very old, and she inquired about it. And he mentioned to her that some divers in the Baltic Sea found a wreck from an 18th century shipwreck and found these cases of champagne and brought them up. And I wrote that scene probably in 2019, 2020, because it took me about 7 years to write that book. And I think last summer, some divers in the Baltic Sea came across an 18th century ship, and they found cases of champagne.
All right.
So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
It's fun when things like that happen.
It is. You can't call it a coincidence, or I don't know. It's always interesting to see that kind of stuff happen. So you took 7 years to write. Was that the first book that you wrote?
No, the first book was Spear Garden, which was the one with the Metal Storm weapon, and it literally took me 6 weeks.
Okay.
But I wanted to hone my craft a bit, so then I wrote some novellas just to get my character out there, rewrote Spear Garden, and it took me over 4 years after I finished it before I published it the first time.
Okay. So I was looking at your Amazon page, you're self-published, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What led you down that path versus trying to get a traditional deal?
I'm kind of a impatient person, and I know that's kind of hard to believe when I took 7 years to write one book and waited 4 years to publish another one. But I did try. Everybody gets rejections. I was speaking to a best-selling author actually a couple weeks ago, and he'd gotten over 169 rejections from the different agents. And I think I've gotten probably around 70 or 75. And I thought, And they always take some time. We'll get back to you in 3 months. We'll get back to you in 5 months. Expect an answer in 3 to 6 months. It's like, I'm not going to wait. So I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and get it out there now. And I know that Vince Flynn was self-published to begin with, and he became very successful. So I thought, he was an inspiration. So I'll just do what he did.
Okay, that's a lot of people have gone down that path and then got picked up. So
Yep.
good luck to you on that.
Thank you.
So what are you doing to get your books out there? Are you doing a lot of advertising or just trying to write more novels?
Kind of both. Really, for a while there, I just threw them out there and didn't really do much. But recently, in the last couple months, I've been trying to aggressively get them out there. And I've figured out how to do click testing on Facebook to see which ad works the best and then put that out there for 10 days to 2 weeks. I figured out how to pre-program tweets to go out on X. Same thing with Facebook and Instagram. So I'll create, like on a Sunday, I'll create a whole week's worth of ads to go out and just kind of then let it go and do its thing. And that's been good. I've seen a lot of steady movement every day. And then I finally, you get bombarded with emails from marketers all the time, daily. And I put them through the ringer. But I finally allowed this young lady to work with me. And she did some keyword optimization. She did my profile on Amazon, rewrote the book descriptions on Amazon, and did some other things to position them to be in the right place. And she actually just did that this week. So I'm going to be a guest on another podcast on Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. It's the 10th, whatever day that is. And he says that his authors usually see a nice bump then. With the Facebook, Instagram ads, tweets, I throw some on LinkedIn every once in a while, the optimization of my profiles, and then trying to do podcasts to get my name out there. I'm starting to see some movement, and it's nice.
Good. We want everybody to be successful because I think that the self-publishing world and all of us thriller authors kind of try to help each other out and, give lessons and tell people what works and what doesn't. So it's a nice, group or whatever you want to call it to be in and to help each other out in that way. So you have your main character his name is Blake McKay. So this is always an interesting question for me is that I'm always fascinated by how people came up with their main character names. So what was your inspiration?
So I wanted my character to be able to blend in the Middle East because that's where a lot of his characters are going to be, his stories take place. So if he needs to be able to blend in, he needs to sort of have that. But I also wanted him to have some chiseled features, some unique looks to him. So I made him half Scottish and half Lakota Sioux. So he's got the olive complexion to be able to blend in, but he's got the Scottish in him, so he can grow a nice thick beard if he needs to, long hair, black hair. So he gets the black hair and the tan skin from his Native American, and he gets the thick hair and a lot of the other chiseled features from his Scottish ancestry. So the McKay is obviously the Scottish last name, and then Blake just came to me, and it sounded like a good, solid name, so that's what I went with. That's how he was born.
I always wonder, we look at character names. I always wonder if there's somebody out there that goes, I love that character so much, I'm going to name my baby after it.
Probably so.
So, I mean, you have to go out to, there's so many names that are in a book. Like Emily is in I don't know how many books that there's an Emily character in. I can name like 3 or 4 off the top of my head. And I've fallen into that trap. I have an Emily in my book. So characters are fascinating to me. Do you prefer to write Blake's side of the story or do you like to write the bad guy's side of the story?
I really incorporate all of their parts. It's really Blake's part of the story, but I want to bring enough in of the bad guy character so you understand what he or she is like. And I want you to hate them as much as I hate them. And so you have to really give the reader a good background of that person to give them a reason to like.
Yeah, you have to give them a motivation and you have to make the character somewhat likable and that people will be interested in it and want to continue to read those scenes. Yeah. So what's your schedule like now? What are you pumping out now? Are you shortened your timeline on the books? And
yeah, I did. I think I'm in the process of writing a prequel right now. It's called Who is Blake McKay? and I'm probably about 75 to 80% done with it. I published Beyond All Measure April 1st of last year, and I'm looking to probably get this one out sometime maybe mid-May. So if time allows me to. So I'm a senior sales engineer for a software company, and I also coach a collegiate women's lacrosse club team. That's why my voice is a little raspy right now. It was cold last night, and I was yelling at the girls at practice. So my full-time job and those other side things kind of take away some of the time.
Yeah, yeah. It's difficult sometimes to squeeze the writing in, and then you're like, you either like, I have to get this onto the page, or you're taking notes somewhere, or you're just like, I just don't feel like writing today. Is that how you find things to be?
Yeah, and I get myself into rhythms too. If I get myself into a rhythm, I can pump out, 2, 3 chapters in just a couple of days. Now, the last chapter I cranked out, it was a long. I might have to shorten it, but it's close to 4,500 words. But there's a lot of things that are happening. It's a close quarter battle inside an old whiskey class submarine in the North Pacific. So if that gives you an kind of clue. So there's a lot of detail. I've taken tours of that submarine. I've talked to some mariners. So I try to make it as absolutely accurate as I possibly can, but still, by filling in the detail, tell a story and keep people's interest. And so that one took quite a bit of time. And the Who is Blake McKay story is really kind of interesting. It's really, how did he become a CIA agent? How was he recruited? And it really is almost like 5 stories into one. Because I'd originally written some short novellas when I first started writing. And, as your writing develops and as your style changes, you look back on things that you wrote before, and you just kind of like, oh, God, that's horrible. I need to rewrite that. And so I took 3 of those novellas, rewrote them all, and incorporated them into the Who is Blake McKay story. But so they're completely different. One changed completely different, and so then the last part is something that's going to be fresh and brand new, and that's what I'm just getting ready to start, that very last part.
So are you a plotter? Are you got everything plotted out, or are you more of a pantser and just kind of freestyling as you go along and have to do all the research in the middle of writing?
Yep, that's me. The stories kind of write themselves. I have an idea. Beyond All Measure started off, it was going to be a book called Retaliate, and it was going to be basically a retaliation / revenge based on the things that happened in Spear Garden. And it started off, and I just didn't like where it was going, and I just stopped writing. And I stopped writing for quite a long time, and that's why it took me 7 years. I probably didn't write anything for 5 or 6 years. I had lots of other things going on, just didn't have time to write. And then I met this older gentleman in Belgium. He became a writing partner of mine, and we've been partners for the last going on 4 years now. And he really kind of kicked me in the butt and is like, you got to do this. You got to get this done. And he really helped me. He helped me to write Beyond All Measure. He kicked me in the butt to write The Royal Contingency. And now he's kicking me in the butt to start finishing these chapters for Who is Blake McKay. But they write themselves. I'll start off with a scene, and I visualize if I'm sitting in a movie theater watching something, what would get my attention? What would shock me? What would I say, oh, I didn't see that coming? And I'll just put it to paper. I think somebody had a quote, or it was a comment on my book, said, don't think that any character is safe, because I'm not afraid to kill anybody at any time. And so if I see that happening in the book, I'll do it.
Yeah, it's I've killed off characters and then got down the line, been like, man, I wish that guy was still around.
That's what the dream sequences got.
Yeah. I also have characters show up in the books, and that I thought that they were just a throwaway character for that scene, and then they've been in, numerous books afterwards.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I had a young, matter of fact, the Mossad sniper, her name is Solomon Zen, and she was in Intercept, and I thought, okay, I'll never use that character again. And lo and behold, as I was writing the Royal Contingency, I was like, oh, that would be a shocker. Here she comes. And then also the way I ended the book, I left it open to bring her back again.
Okay. Always fun to be able to bring those characters back. So are you seeing like you're putting out one book a year, I assume?
Yeah, that's about right.
All right. Are you seeing like readers want more from you? Because there's a lot of self-published authors that are, cranking out 4 or 5, 3, 4, 5 books a year. Are you looking to do that later down the road?
Not planning on it. If by some miracle my books took off and I could write full time and I had the luxury of doing that, then yeah, I probably would crank out probably at least 3.
Okay.
If it happens, great. If it doesn't, I'll crank out about 1 a year. But to answer your first question, yeah, I do. It's nice. I get comments from other readers. I get reached out to sometimes on Facebook Messenger, sometimes through my website. And that's the reason why I wrote Who is Blake McKay, is probably the biggest question or biggest comment I got. How did he become a CIA agent? What happened to him? What's driving him? And that's what this novel I've got coming out soon tells you. Not only how did he get recruited, why did he get recruited, and what's the underlying thing that's driving him to be the best that he can possibly be at his job, because he might have an ulterior motive.
Always. You have to have that, right?
Yeah.
So what interests you about the Middle East and Mossad, and to set your books in that arena?
Well, they're not all set in that arena. That's a place of contention right now in the world. It always has been. I think, you see a lot of movies made with Middle Eastern terrorists, and so that's kind of where the first book takes place. A lot of it, the first book, Spear Garden, really kind of takes place all over the place. It goes from Cuba to Afghanistan to Belarus, but there's a good part of the book that takes place in Afghanistan and dealing with Al Qaeda and things like that. With like Beyond All Measure, it's up in the Arctic. It's up in Endicott Island in Alaska. It's in the middle of the Arctic Ocean in the north. It's in Norway. It's in Vienna. So when it intercepts in Vienna, it's in Switzerland. And then with the Ural Contingency, it's kind of more like an eco-disaster type thriller. It takes place, there's scenes in India, most of it takes place, a lot of it in Siberia and Moscow. So a lot of things taking place there.
So the bio lab, did you have Chinese bio lab in a house in Las Vegas on your bingo card?
Yeah, that was kind of a shocker when I just heard that on the news. Was it either this morning or yesterday? But
yeah,
kind of a shocker.
Yeah, the cleaning ladies went into the house and they said that they were feeling nauseous when they came out, and they called the authorities.
Yeah, there's a lot of times that truth really is stranger than fiction sometimes. I think I told you there were kind of like 3 things that I predicted. One, it wasn't really a prediction. A very good reason for having my disclosure in the front of my book that says any persons living or dead that resemble anybody in this book is complete coincidence. And again, I wrote Spear Garden initially in 2012, and the name of the director of clandestine agents at the CIA, his name is Mike Brennan. And the way I described him, I kind of thought of, remember that cartoon show King of the Hill?
Yep.
His dad, the little short guy. I
Yeah.
kind of built my character off of him. But then, lo and behold, John Brennan becomes director of the CIA, and he looks exactly like the freaking character I came up with. And I'm like, oh, crap. I don't want him to think that I'm saying that's him. But I wrote it before I even heard who John Brennan was.
I think that we base all of our characters off somebody we know or somebody we've seen in real life. So if you have a president that resembles somebody that's in office now, I think it's just going to happen. And so, I've written friends of mine into the books, and just to see what because I know they read them. So I just to see what kind of kick they get out of it. And they always appreciate it, and they always find it funny. And I always put them in interesting situations.
Yeah, I sort of do that too, but I kind of have a rule. If I'll put my friends in my book, but not the full name. Blake's alias, his name is David Say, and he's a philanthropist in Vancouver, Canada. That's his cover. He feeds starving children or whatever. But anyway, one of my closest friends growing up, his name was David Say Kickspell. So I use his first name and his middle name. But anybody that asks me to say, will you put me in your book? I say, yeah, sure. And then I kill them really, really badly.
That's a fun way to do it. Don't ask me unless you want to die.
My neighbor's wife asked me, and she's in Beyond All Measure, and she died horribly.
And how do they take that? Do they see that? Oh, he's going to kill me.
I warn them. I say, I'll put you in there, but you're going to die. And they're like, oh, really?
Killing characters off is fun because then you could just, it's like therapy, almost in a way.
Yeah. Now, I did kill off. I started writing the book. I had absolutely no intention of doing that. And as things went on, I kind of turned her into a villain because she was offered something that she really, really, really wanted. And if this didn't succeed, she wasn't going to get it. So she kind of became crazy. and she dies. Think of the Titan, the submarine going down to the Titanic, kind of like that.
Didn't let go of the video game controller soon enough, I guess.
Yeah.
So my final question to everybody is, what's the one thing you want people to take away from your books after they finish reading them?
I really like it when people can finish reading the book and feel like they just got done watching. I really changed up my writing style 3 or 4 years ago, and that's why I rewrote Spear Garden. I wanted it to have that style. I use almost no dialogue tags at all. So instead of, I read something today, this guy's in the room, he paused. That's boring. Have him pick up a cup and take a sip of water. Or, I want everybody to visualize everything as much as you possibly can. And I think from a lot of the comments that I've gotten, people say I felt like I was watching a movie. I could see it in my mind. And that's what I want. If you could be entertained enough to where I can visualize something in your mind the way that I have it, then I think
that's the goal, man. You just want people to visualize what's in the books and enjoy it really well.
Yep.
So, and that's a wrap on this episode of Plot Recon, where thrillers get tactical. Thanks to Thom Tate for joining me and talking about building a high-stakes spy fiction rooted in covert ops and global conflict. If you want to check out his work, you can find his books on Amazon or at tatescovertworld.com. As always, if you want to see the full episodes of this, check it out on plotrecon.com. Pick up some merch to support the show. I'm Evan Graver. Thanks for listening. Stay sharp, write hard, and keep your fiction tactical.